Hugh,
This is so weird.
as I live and breathe.
Yeah.
In the flesh.
So listen, I'm very unhappy about how good you are in The Lobster.
So the rumours I've heard about you are true.
Yes.
You are a fan of Schadenfreude.
That's exactly right. I don't like anyone having any success, but you are very good. It's a brilliant film, and tell me how that so how did it come about? Why would what's his name? Yorgos?
I like the way you roll your
Yorgos.
R's. I don't know if it's correct, but I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yorgos Lanthimos. I had seen a film that he did 5 or 6 years before. I read the script to The Lobster, a thing called Dogtooth.
I like Dogtooth.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
So bizarre and
I know.
so disturbing.
It's given me nightmares.
Yeah, as it should. If it didn't, I'd be worried. But I came out of a cinema in Philadelphia on a Tuesday evening and just was scratching my head thinking, what kind of level of disturbance does the director and writer of that film experience on the daily? I couldn't believe it because it was all so... It was so meticulously crafted. It was awkward from its very inception, obviously, but there was a kind of a logic to how absurd and disturbing the whole world was in Dogtooth, and I just thought it was brilliant. And then 5 years later, I heard from my agent that he was making his first English language film, and I thought, well, this should be an interesting read. So they sent the script, and I can't quite say that I completely grasped, or still to this day have grasped what.
Well, I was going to say, what does it mean?
I
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it's brilliant in every possible way.
Thanks. I don't know. What's the film about? I have no idea.
Did he talk about that kind of stuff?
No. Doesn't want to know
Okay.
about talking actors.
Oh, really?
Doesn't want to know. Just, I mean, to annoy Yorgos or aggravate him, you'd say to him, so what's my character feeling in this scene? And be like, actors.
Yes.
He doesn't
That's
want
how Polanski was.
Right.
Woody Allen, Stephen Frears.
Woody Allen, I don't know if he could pick me out of a lineup. And I worked with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, Woody, I did a film with Ewan McGregor, and 3 days before we started shooting, Woody was given pictures of Ewan and pictures of me in costume, and he looked at the shot of Ewan in a suit, and he went, "Why is Colin dressed in a suit, man?" And I was over his shoulder, and I said, "No, Woody, that's you, and I'm Colin. How are you?" That was 3 days before we started shooting.
Yeah.
So, but Yorgos, I mean, he knows who you are, but but he doesn't want to know. He just... The worlds he creates, him and Lanthimos, his co-writer, creates, are so specific that the worst thing he could do, I think, is imbue them with a contemporary way of speaking and moving, and then you would kind of nullify the extraordinary awkwardness of the worlds that they create.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I read it, I wanted to do it because have you found the greatest thing as an actor that you can lean into in film is a trust in your director? You know, we've talked about that. Actors talk about it all the time. You know, trust in their choices. Not that you always go with them, but that you trust in their single-minded approach and their perspective, their opinion on why they're doing something and how to achieve the realization of what they're trying to capture to the fullest of its potential. And with Yorgos, having seen Dogtooth, I just went, that's someone who, if people don't like a film he makes, I don't believe I'll ever see a film of his, and this is maybe idealistic, that I think is bad.
Yeah.
I just don't. Maybe I will, but I don't. I think I'll see a film that might disturb me in a way that's not comfortable or that I don't necessarily like, but yeah.
Now, have you thought of what animal you'd like to be if you end up alone?
Yes, a lobster.
Why a lobster?
Because lobsters live for over 100 years. Are blue-blooded, like aristocrats.
It looks like all the actors, they're all brilliant, but it looks like all the actors have been told just sort of be...
There was none of that.
Quite deadpan.
I know. I think we all understood, having seen his previous work.
Seen Dogtooth and all that.
Yeah, I think we understood that there was a kind of a tonal universe that his films existed within. Because there was no, I mean, everyone is deadpan. There's a lot of, except for brilliant Olivia Colman, she had more colour in what she did, I think, than a lot of us. But no, it was just we all, I mean, Rachel Weisz, she arrived 3 weeks into it going, what the fuck is going on? You know, how's it going?
Yeah.
Well, none of us knew what we were doing.
But on the set, does he look like a man who's making a drama or a comedy? Because I think it's very, very funny, Lobster.
Yeah. It wasn't that funny to read, because I was just so confused, discombobulated by it. But I don't know. He's a bit of a cipher, Yorgos. He doesn't tell you too much.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't. If you're looking for a director to pat you on the back and tell you you're doing great,
well, that's a must as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, stay away from him.
Really? Okay.
So how was Frears? Tell me about Frears and tell me about Florence Jenkins. Tell me.
Well, Frears is equally silent, actually.
Have you worked with him before?
No, never.
Okay.
I knew him through politics, actually. He used to support my campaign in London, and so I knew him a bit that way, and he used to say, "Oh, we should do a film together." And I used to say, "Oh, I don't think so, Stephen. I'm sort of, I don't do much show business anymore, and anyway, you make classy films, and I make, romantic comedy, sort of mass market stuff." And then, to my surprise, he suddenly sent me this script, which was really good, and had
Jenkins had romance and had comedy in it, but it also had a dearth of drama, and it had kind of a struggle of the central character, the female central character played by Meryl, who was trying to maintain, I don't know if she was trying to maintain, but there was the maintenance of a dream, and it took this whole support system around her to I mean, for me, he seems to, what does he do for years? He deals with a lot with characters, whether it's the Lance Armstrong character or whether it's the Queen, with public perception versus the private struggle behind that.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, it's quite difficult to find a common thread for him.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I sometimes think he's quite good at disorientating the audience. You don't know quite what genre you're in or what you're meant to be feeling. Like in our film, are you laughing at them? Are you laughing with them? Where's the tone? Is it a comedy? Is it a drama? And I think he's...
That's even, I found it hard to place your character in that same way. I found it hard to place your character or judge him as somebody who was, how much was he in on the joke? How much was he...
Using her.
Yeah. How much, how did you find the balance between that, or what was your perspective on that? How much was he affording her the opportunity to make a fool of herself? But essentially, of course, I mean, by buying all those newspapers was the most exaggerated example of protecting her from the truth of her maybe slight lack of brilliance that she possibly felt she had, or did she?
No, I mean, I liked the fact that the character was difficult to place, enigmatic.
Yeah.
And you don't really know if he's a goodie or a baddie for quite a long time. And I mean, in the end, I decided we should wonder for about 2/3 of the film and then be certain in the last third that he loves her.
Yes.
But again, when I said to Frears in pre-production meetings, we used to meet in a little cafe, and I'd say, "So come on, I think we should at least know, is he a goodie or a baddie? What do you think?" He said, "Well, I don't know, no idea." So he's very like your guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't like chit-chat. I think sometimes people who've made an awful lot of films get the hang of that it's never going to be precisely what you wrote. It has a whole organic life of its own, film, and you watch it emerge in the editing suite, and it becomes something that you never thought it would be. And so it's quite good to sort of have fewer rather than more preconceptions and specific goals.
Was everyone laughing at me the whole time? I was never laughing at you. Yours is the truest voice I have ever heard.
So working with Ms. Meryl Streep, I've been told just to call her Meryl because we all know there's only one Meryl, but how's that? Did you know her before, or did you? No,
she came as part of the package. It's a lovely story about the writer, actually.
Please.
He was not having a great phase in his career. He's writing good TV in Britain, but then was having a bad phase and thought, I'll write this feature film spec idea I have. No one commissioned it. Gave it to his agent after a few months and said, I don't know, see if you can sell that. And 4 days later, the agent comes back and says, being directed by Stephen Frears, starring Meryl Streep.
No way.
Yeah, and he's sitting in a small flat in South London.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's the package that came to me, and Meryl Streep. The fact that she would agree even to be in a film with me was thrilling. But then, of course, the terror
And
set
bizarre.
in. Yeah, bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. It's bizarre to this day. And terrifying.
Did you do a table read beforehand?
Yes, the most frightening day of my life.
Yeah, they're awkward, aren't they?
Yeah.
They just are.
All of them. But especially if
you
you're sitting
wonder
next
how
to
much to give or how not to, or if you give too much, it's
That's
ridiculous.
right.
If you don't give enough, are they going to fire you?
That's right.
God forbid you should have to do an accent. Do you pull it out at the table read? Do you save it for the day?
I know. And it's the same I find on the set when you have a line-up at the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
A lot of good actors, especially American actors, I've noticed, mumble. They just mark it.
Yeah.
But I'm too vain to do that. I'm thinking,
Right.
because I'm thinking the crew will think I'm crap.
Yeah. Sure.
So I give it everything in the lineup. And to be honest, I'm bloody good in the lineup.
Yeah,
and then I
yeah.
get progressively worse and
I've
worse.
done some of my finest work way off camera.
Way off camera.
I mean, in my hotel room.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Do you find that actually? Because that's
I do. I wonder often. You know, there's so many. I realised, as an actor, for me anyway, I will condition things or shape things to a certain way that will allow me the feeling that it's all gone wrong. So even something like last film I did with Nicole that we just saw, there was a rumor that we had to reshoot some scenes. And the scenes that we had to reshoot, when we did those scenes on that day, I walked off the set going, that was disastrous, it was terrible. It was, but when I was told we might have to reshoot them, I thought, how am I going to get the magic back? So
you always give it the negative spin.
Always give it, I can anyway, always give it the negative spin.
I think that's right.
Always.
I trawl through the reviews of my films and ignore the good ones and go straight to the bad ones.
I trawl through the reviews of your films and do the exact same. I'm guilty of Schadenfreude also. Yeah. I do the same. Because the good ones, you don't get any. You get a quick bump.
Yeah, it's not enough.
It's not enough. The
truth
bad ones,
is the bad one.
they stay, they linger like an old friend.
Yeah. But go back to the thing about close-ups, because I find it comforting when other people agree with me. When I did Cloud Atlas, I got Tom Hanks to agree that you always feel you're never as good in your close-up, usually towards the end of the day, as you were in the wide shot, or especially in your close-up when I'm off camera. Then I'm bloody marvellous.
Yeah.
But then they say, turning round on you, Hugh, and there's an hour to wait while they set everything up.
Absolutely.
And you get tight.
Absolutely, you get tense. There's a certain looseness, fluidity, sense of ease that I've experienced off camera that instantly leaves my side once the camera sits in judgment and stares at you. Yeah. Well, I often wondered, does that result in it being, a less naturalistic or a less grounded or a less sincere, true performance or not, or is it just the mind knows? Because a certain amount of tension, as long as it's not apparent, but can equate itself to an awareness as well.
Yeah.
As long as it's not like a tension, an actor where you're struggling and the camera's there and you're going, I wonder, can anyone see my breath? Is a little bit. Did you ever get that one? That was more in the hangover days.
See your breath.
They'd see my chest, that my breathing is away. I remember that back in the day.
And the sweaty armpits come. I have one.
Good thing camera can't smell my breath. Those mornings.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this a while. When did you start acting? How old are you? You in school?
No, 1983.
1983.
Yes.
Theatre or classes or commercials?
It was theatre. I was a tree in the wind at Nottingham Playhouse.
And did it stay with you?
To this day, it was my best performance.
And what's your relationship been like through the years with it? Did you love it at the start? Did you stop loving it? Did you re-engage with it? Or do you see any kind of trajectory, personal trajectory, not career-wise or how people have perceived you or what work has come your way, but your own relationship inside of being an actor for the last 30 or 40 years, whatever it's been?
Well, it's been gusty.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I have gusts of incredible enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Usually once I've signed up, out of sheer panic.
Yeah.
Because if I'm bad, everyone is going to laugh at me. So I try bloody hard and go to enormous trouble to try and be as good as I can. And worse, once I got the power, I then became very interfering behind the camera as well.
You did?
Yeah. Barbara Streisand in trousers I was. I mean, it was just awful. Everything down to how the poster looks in South Korea.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I'm better about that now.
Yeah. What do you think that was? Just an attempt to maintain or control what you had arrived at?
To be honest, it was more to do with the films that were comedies because, it's such a fragile thing, jokes.
Yes,
and
yes.
It only takes one tiny thing to, suddenly the laugh is lost. I can remember in the editing suite of comedy films and you would change the background music that's playing on the jukebox in a scene, and it's not even very loud. And at the next preview, all the laughs have gone.
Yeah.
It's so fragile.
Yeah.
And that makes you sometimes a bit of a, what do you call someone who's pernickety? Well, someone,
Yeah, pernickety, yeah.
Control freak.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And what about, are there other things, other aspects of life that you've found have helped you step away from acting or have existed alongside acting? You mentioned politics earlier. I'm wondering, has that informed your work? Because people have asked me as a dad and stuff, does being a father make you a better actor? I don't know, but it makes my life outside of acting more rich. And I have to believe that can only enrich the work that I do. Or I choose to believe that can only enrich the work that I do.
Yes.
I find that when I claimed in my early years not to identify with being an actor, and I was all, I don't give a fuck, and this and that and the other, and I really just didn't know how to manage my own care for it, or my own uncertainty around it, or my own anxiety around it. And now, the more rich my life has gotten outside of the world of acting and making films and stuff, the less serious I take it with regards to the value that it puts on me as a man. But that also has this strange paradox where it allows me to invest more of myself in it without the weight it once did, if that makes sense. I enjoy it more, I have a freedom within it because I step into it from this life that has a greater degree of, you know, I now have 6 friends in my life, you know, constant friends instead of just bumping film to film and hanging out with crew and, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that does help. I mean, it is a bit of a cliche, I suppose, to say one's children have improved one, but they definitely improved me. I went from being nasty old 50-year-old to I'm delightful.
A nasty
now.
old 52-year-old.
I honestly, I break my heart with how nice I am now because I have so much love.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I definitely think I couldn't have done bits of Florence, for instance, the bits that are to do with, you know,
The deep care that
love.
Yeah, the deep care that your character had for her.
Yeah,
The deep care.
yeah.
That wasn't, you know, there was questions about how ambitious he was and how much he was leaning on her for, his inner patrician's need to live a certain life or a certain standard of existence socially. But by the end, it was very clear that it was a really, really deep love and a very romantic story, even though it wasn't the furthest thing from sexual for obvious reasons. You know, there was a deep sincerity in his love for her, I felt, which was extraordinary.
Yeah.
Dance, Sinclair, dance. I want to see you dance.
I think also when you get older, you just get a bit less self-conscious.
Yeah.
I don't mind dancing in pret-a-manger now if I like the music. You know, you just don't care so much anymore. And I think the same applies a bit with acting, that there are things like towards the end of Florence Foster Jenkins when she's dying and, you know, I had to be quite emotional. I don't feel inhibited anymore. I feel...
Yeah, no, it was beautiful.
You sort of feel sodded. Here you
Did
are.
you feel because I felt you were more raw in this film than anything I've seen you
I
in.
think that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Did you take it home with you more? Like, not like did you lose your mind and your kids couldn't see you, but did it just even echoes of it stay with you?
Yes, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, what's more interesting
Which is
to
a
me
gift, by the way, as long as you're not, you know.
But you're less repressed than me. You're Irish.
Yeah.
You're better at dealing with emotion than us uptight.
I don't know
Brits.
if I'm better than dealing with emotion. I think I'm probably better at possibly drowning under it. If that's better at dealing with it, you know. I mean, we Irish, you know. I think part of the reason why we drink as much as we do and stuff, and it's a gross generalisation, and but it's not just to have good fun, but it's to try and navigate or orchestrate or give context to the emotions that we feel, because we're very, very emotional people, the Irish.
No, I agree with
I
that.
think that's one of the reasons why I like the job, you know, and it's also a danger because you think as an actor, if I'm crying or screaming, you're doing a great job, but you know, sometimes you're just beating the audience over the head with your emotions and you're not giving them the room to feel or to experience what the story is.
Well, this became a big thing in my film, because it said in the script when she dies, he sobs uncontrollably.
Right.
And I thought, Christ, I can't
I
do
know.
that.
Right.
And then, to my astonishment, I did. I got myself in the right mood and did all those things and sobbed. And then and everyone said, that's marvelous, can't believe you did that. And then, to my horror, as previews went through by preview, there was less and less crying until there was none. And it ended up with Stephen Frears saying, I think, you know, the audience feels it more if you're not crying. So now, the next time I have to do a crying scene, the sad thing that will make me cry is Stephen Frears cutting my crying scene. But it's very odd emotion.
It's life
because
imitating art, imitating life.
you just never know when it's going to ambush you.
Yeah.
And and I was lucky enough that it came out then.
Did you get, I felt maybe, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that did you get, not lost in the moment, but did you get immersed emotionally, it sounds like, in moments within this film where you felt more present in scenes than you had in other things? Or maybe some of the work that you've done, comedic work, as you say, to get a laugh is such a fine, fine art. You have to have a third eye and be outside of it a little bit more.
Well, that's exactly the question I was going to ask you.
Right.
Because when you're doing stuff which has, it's either comedy or has a comedic element, I find, as an actor doing a take, you can either lean on the reality foot or the comedy foot.
Right.
And sometimes, ideally, you're 50-50.
Right,
But I have said to directors on take 3 or 4, shall I go a bit more comedy?
Right.
Because they are slightly two different instincts. And I wondered if you did that in
Lobster.
Because, for instance, when you're checking into the hotel and she says heterosexual or homosexual, your reaction's unbelievably funny. And I wondered if you were thinking comedy thoughts or reality thoughts.
I was probably 50-50 in that moment.
Yeah, there you go.
To be honest, because the script was so well drawn. I mean, again, if you just could somehow align yourself with the truth within the absurdity, which is very far behaviourally from any truth that I'd experienced in life. I mean, it's a world where you don't recognise the behaviour of these characters, for me. You don't recognise their lack of response to certain things that in our world we would be responding to in a more emotional or physical way. And that gives the audience the distance to go, oh, this is absurd, and it's you know, maybe it's allegorical, but it's not our world, and then they allow themselves off the hook, and then ideally I think they get pulled back in to see, oh, it is actually our world. This is a mirror being held up.
We had to be very careful in the beginning not to mix up "I love you more than anything in the world" with "watch out, we're in danger." When we raise our left arm, it means "I want to dance in your arms."
The two things, I literally gave myself 2 very strict guidelines before, and it's like acting 101, so it shouldn't be, but I really drilled it into myself. Listen like I'd never listened before on The Lobster. Really listen, like blank, not active listening like people talk about, active listening, but just...
What's that?
I have no idea. That's why I did this week thing. But I really listen and have no real opinion on what anyone says. For David, because he's quite clueless and guileless, and that
But
was
that's
lovely.
very interesting.
And
Because
also
the
give
camera
myself
loves that
time.
stuff.
Yeah,
They love open.
yeah. Well, that's what he was.
Do you ever come across a British director called Richard Wilson?
No.
Who's also an actor. Talks like that. Very good theatre director. He was in that sitcom. Anyway, and he used to say...
I like him, though.
Well, he used to say in the theatre, I did a play with him at Manchester, and he used to say, don't nest, just be open, open. And it's such a good note to any actor. Yeah. Because otherwise you come in with your preconceived ideas and a preconceived way of saying the line. That's disastrous.
Exactly. And that's also, you know, instantly castrating a certain part of the creative process in film and on stage, which is you need the other actors to respond off, and you need them to respond off you, and whatever way they respond off you is completely their thing.
Yes.
But you do need to interrelate, you know. Whereas I found at times I came with preconceived notions of scenes, and the other people weren't doing what I had preconceived, and it throws you off, and then you become, you know, the negative tension comes in for sure that time.
I'm horrified at how thin and fit you are now. I was rejoicing in the fact that Colin Farrell had got fat, and you're not.
I'm
so
not.
You obviously did a Bridget Jones.
Inside, I might be. I mean,
I think so. I think you're going to be huge.
I did put on a bit of weight. Yeah, I put on 43 pounds in 8 weeks.
Was that quite fun?
No, it was horrific.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I had a whole list of restaurants, you know, 75% of which were fast food joints, that I was going to hit up in Los Angeles, and I lasted 2 days. And it was depressing after that, because part of being able to eat what you want is the fun of knowing you're not supposed to do it, but then when you have to actually get 10 or 12,000 calories a day into your body of fried foods and sugar.
Is that how many?
Yeah, I had about 10,000 calories a day.
That's appalling.
Of fried food and sugar and shit.
But at
and
least
I'd have
you
chocolate
meant to be
beside my
fat.
bed. Yeah, but I had a goal to go for.
Yes.
And it worked, and then I just couldn't stop. I was like Kim Kardashian. I couldn't stop taking selfies of myself in the bathroom. I was fascinated by what was happening to my body, and just because it's just a lab, you know, and so.
But at least you did it deliberately.
I did.
Only last night,
deliberately.
a woman said to me, "It was brilliant what you did in Florence Foster Jenkins. Did you get fat deliberately?" No.
No, you didn't.
I didn't.
What were you, 10
I was
pounds
eating
more than you are
perfectly
now?
normally.
What were you, 10 pounds more than you are now? Maybe?
No, I was
Not
probably
even.
lighter than I am now.
No.
Yes.
The camera puts on 10 pounds then. That's true. Yeah. But no, I did 8 weeks on, 8 weeks off, man. It was no big, anyone in the world could do it, of course. It was just a bit of discipline, you know, and that was it. But I did find that
When did you choose the moustache?
That was, I think myself and Yorgos talked. I think they were probably the most in-depth conversations that we talked about. Was I think you should be soft and maybe have a moustache.
And that was it.
That was about it. Yeah.
It looked good, that
but
moustache.
It slowed me down.
I tried a moustache for my character in pre-production.
Oh, and no?
Well,
You didn't need it.
The mother of my children refused to have sex with me while I had it. So
Deal breaker.
It was a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a bit.
Has
But
to
then
be.
I showed it to Stephen Frears, rather proud of it, and he said, "Get it off immediately."
I won't have sex with you.
Yeah, he also stopped shagging me.
Also, yeah, no, it did. It slowed me down. It put me physically, apart from whatever aesthetically it did, or it put me physically in a place where it slowed my speech right down and affected my movement, and it was helpful. I couldn't imagine doing it any other way now. How about you? Because I don't feel part of it at all. The whole fame thing and celebrity thing. I mean, I really don't. When I was lucky enough to get my first American film, and then it all went mad so fast for me, and I had a period of maybe 5 or 6 years of incredible fame and being, recognizability and all that, and it was madness, and that's since gone. A few films that didn't quite work the box office, and I'm really, God, having films that are seen by audiences, if they're good and they connect, is a wonderful thing, but I'm glad that period of madness is over for me in my life. I don't feel part of what people could, if they bothered to waste 30 seconds and think of my life, they could imagine my life to be, i.e. parties and red carpets and all. 2 or 3 times a year I may stamp on a red carpet and do some interviews or do this kind of thing. I've never done this before, but outside of that, social media I don't have, and I feel very outside of it. You live in London?
I live in London, yes. No, I'm in the same kind of boat.
I was going to say,
I'm more left alone than I was.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely delightful.
Yeah, same.
But here's a penetrating question.
Yes. Uh-oh.
Do-
I feel like I should cross my legs tighter.
Well, funny, I was thinking when I watched, you should, someone sent me some links for this program, other people doing this program. And it's lots of actors talking to each other and talking about acting in a very deep and serious way.
Yeah, yeah.
And do you think acting is a kind of goal in itself and almost a quasi-religious experience, and it's like therapy, and you're trying to please your fellow actors? Or do you think it's just a tool for entertaining people?
I think all the above. I think it can be quite often a different thing for the actor than it is for the audience, but I think if there's an experiential symbiosis between what the actor is experiencing in their own lives and internally and what the audience is experiencing in purveying the work that the actor presents, I think that's a state.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a state of grace.
But if you had 2 scripts on your desk, and one was almost certain to be a big smash hit because people would really be entertained by it,
right?
But the part's kind of 8 out of 10,
right?
Then you have one where no one's going to see this outside San Sebastian Film Festival, but the part is 10 out of 10,
right?
Which do you choose?
It depends. Honest to God, being a dad of 2 boys, and that I want to be able to support and stuff, and it's a bit complicated as well, which I won't get into. But you should have made it more interesting by saying 6 out of 10. The one that's going to be seen by everyone. Let's say 6 out of 10 is the part, maybe 5 out of 10. There's a world where I'd still do that. I have a really healthy appreciation for the nature of commerce of the film business, and my personal proclivity and thereby inclination is to be drawn genuinely to smaller, more intimate stuff. Things I've done like Ondine or In Bruges or The Lobster, stuff that usually has a budget between 5 and 10 million, but the characters, because they don't have to find such a big audience, the characters have a greater sense of specificity to them, and maybe a greater internal struggle that can find avenues of emotional or intellectual exploration that the $100 million, $150 million films maybe don't afford, just in how they're crafted. And you can go, well, you should still bring the same level of attention. You do, but Total Recall will not allow you to do the same level, or maybe I'm just not good enough, the same level of or at least attempt to find the same level of specificity and depth. It doesn't want it of you. It doesn't need it of you, that kind of film. But I think I have my own version of a healthy appreciation for both, and I love doing action films. Like, I've done 3 or 4 dramas in a row now, and I kind of said to my agent last week, I wouldn't mind finding something like John Wick, something that had a kind of an aesthetic beauty to it and a particular style, but was more commercial and maybe more physical and stuff like that. What about you? I mean, it's a job.
Well, I agree with almost everything you've said. But I sometimes think we are in slight danger of disappearing up our own arses, actors, and that really we should be there to entertain people, and we shouldn't forget that. It's an entertainment business.
Yeah.
And if you're not entertaining people and you're only really pleasing your peers, and so that you get recognition and awards and things, then I think it can become a fraction masturbatory.
That would bore the hell out of me if I was, and I know there is a part of me that wants to be liked, and there's a part of me that wants my peers to think that I'm decent at what I do.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to kind of blindly pursue that, or to have that be the thing that conditions how I choose roles, would be terrible. Be so boring to me. I just love doing different things. If I can just make it as kind of puerile as that.
Yes,
I love doing different things. I love the few times I've done broad comedy, and maybe The Lobster in Bruges, or kind of dark comedy with a bit of drama. Then they've done straight drama that nobody's seen, then big action films.
When you were,
I can't answer.
You went to drama school, right?
Yeah.
And was your reputation for doing comedy or straight stuff?
I was terrible at Shakespeare. The only scene that I ever felt, or the teacher ever told me that I did any decent work in, was a Harold Pinter play. And Martin McDonagh's...
Not unlike... him.
Martin's not unlike.
But also Yorgos.
Yeah, not unlike. Yeah,
Yes.
the same kind of existential quandaries exist
Slightly
within.
absurdist.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the dumb waiter. I'll never forget the scene. It was the dumb waiter, and so.
Dumb waiter?
Yeah.
Is
but
he the one that says, I've got to go to Sig Cup, get my boots?
I'm not sure, because I didn't do the whole play. I just did a scene.
Oh.
He just called me out. Thanks, man.